What is up, Savages? I hope everyone is doing awesome on this Miner Monday. If you follow me or the Zel project at all, you probably have heard some rumblings about ZelFlux. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Let's get into it. Welcome to the SavageMine YouTube channel. If you are new here and want to learn about crypto mining and projects, you can get a daily fix of it just by clicking the subscribe button and the notification bell right now so you don't miss out on anything. Also be sure to follow me on Twitter. It's pretty boring over there right now, even with the backed launch and dump today. But I do keep you updated on what's going on with this YouTube channel, and sometimes I run polls to help decide what we'll be looking at on the live stream. So it's interactive, and you may actually help determine what the video content will be about that particular night, which is kind of cool. Let's take a quick look at what I am mining. I am still mining Rio on the NVIDIA and AMD rigs at the house here. And I'm mining XMR or Monero on the the CPU. The GPUs are mining Rio on each rig, and the CPU is mining Monero, of course. Probably making about 15 cents a year on this, but that's okay. Yeah, still doing Rio over there. And then on the co-owned rigs, and I've got another rig down, and it seems like this happens almost every night. Seems like as soon as I click on this, I'll have a rig down. Okay, so but on the shared rigs, these are co-owned. They're not owned outright by me. It's just a few people that got some money together and bought a couple of rigs. And ever since about March, we've had them on CCX or Conceal.network since March. So no change there. We just did a Fireball Friday and a monthly review, because we basically leave these rigs mining whatever it is for a month, instead of switching it around all the time. So we get it stable and just let it rock, let it eat. And so we did that review on Friday, and it looks like we're going to leave them on CCX for the foreseeable future. Take a quick look at the market. Not that it's anything nice to look at right now, but we will check it out anyway. Look. Yeah, it's not a great board here with all the red, but let's look at the watch list here. Raven's down a little bit, Loki's up a little bit. These are just the ones that are on my top 10 list. That I don't know. I think that it has to meet a certain requirement. I've added more in here, but I don't know how to get them to show up. I think it's based on probably based on market cap or something. So the smaller projects just don't show up on here at all. You can add them, but they don't show up. So that's probably what it has to do with. Let's look at CoinMarketCap. Same stuff going on over there, of course. But we'll take a look at each one of the top 10 projects real quick. Number one is CCX, for me anyway. They're down below 20 cents, which is not great. But everything's down today, so I'm not too worried. Raven, we saw what Raven was doing there, hanging around 3 cents. The nightly ASIC dump is hurting them pretty bad, and their fork is coming up on October 1st, so that hopefully that will alleviate some of that pain that we're receiving from the ASICs. Swap is down just a little bit, not too bad there. Rio is dropping down below 2 cents, down 10%. But again, today is a red day. Pretty much everything's going to be down. Loki's actually performing a little bit better than the market today. That's good to see. Zel's hurting a little bit today, down below 8 cents. But we're going to talk about this because if you want, definitely not financial advice or anything, but if you wanted to get involved, this is a pretty good time. Let's see here. So let's look at Veil. Veil's down just a little bit. And Arrow is not on here. Arrow's my number 8, but it's not on here. We'll look at Bitcash. Oh wow, Bitcash is doing well today. That's good to see. Up 8%. And then AION, what are they doing today? Oh man, they're almost down to 7 cents again. I don't think that they got below 7 recently. Maybe they dipped down here, right here. Looks like they might have hit 6 something. Or maybe not. Well, so if they hit 6, that's going to be, well, I mean, we can see what their all-time low is here. So they did hit 6 at some point, yeah. Wow. All right, so that is a quick market overview. I know that, we don't really talk too much about the market on here, just kind of quick overviews. If there's anything else y'all want to look at, just hit me up in the chat. I'm not interacting with the chat just yet, but I am over here looking now and nobody's really talking, so that's fine. I will just press on. Just a quick reminder, none of my content is sponsored. I'm just some dude that presses go live on YouTube and talks about stuff that I'm interested in. Also, none of this is financial advice. You have to do your own research before committing any funds to mining hardware or investing in projects or anything like that. So what we'll talk about tonight real quick is going to be Zel. And it's one project that I follow on this channel quite a bit, and they seem to be gaining some traction as of late, which is always good to see. As time goes on, as you all surely know, blockchain tech is evolving rapidly. What was once just a currency has evolved to offer much more by using master nodes, smart contracts, assets, or tokens to implement various feature sets and capabilities of blockchain projects. Each of these different capabilities has their own set of limitations. You're even seeing this right now with Ethereum not scaling very well. I mean, heck, you had one app bring the network to a crawl, CryptoKitties back in the day. So, you can see right there that there's a problem with scalability. One possible solution would be to have decentralized computing power through nodes, master nodes, that support all these different blockchain capabilities. And that's what Zel is developing, and they are calling it ZelFlux. You can think of ZelFlux as the operating system for the Zel node network. It is open source and combines the processing power of the nodes to provide solutions to some of the problems experienced by previous blockchain projects. And since it uses nodes, speaking of Zel nodes, I think it's important to know what the tiers are before discussing ZelFlux too much. Not that there's a whole lot to say about ZelFlux at this point, but we are going to take a look at the Zel nodes here. So there are 3 tiers that make up the Zel computational network, and there's basic, super, and BAMF. And the basic cost, or the stake, is 10,000 Zel. And if you're looking at setting up your own node, they do have plans through DigitalOcean, I believe, for the VPS, the virtual private server. Or you could, if you have the capability, you could set up your own server, as long as you can have an extreme amount of uptime. I think they allow for maybe 40 minutes a day of downtime for maintenance and whatnot. So if you had this capability, now the one limiting factor, I think, is the cost of the bandwidth, because if you're going to run your own node at your own business or your own home, even if you have an extreme amount of uptime, the bandwidth, the cost, it might be more beneficial, especially for the basic node, to actually be a VPS, because your bandwidth, your your download speed it has to be at least 100 megabits per second with basically a minimum of 2.5 terabytes a month. So what you're seeing here on the screen, the 2.5 bandwidth means per month is what it'll be transmitting and receiving. So it depends on the plan you have. Obviously, if you have really cheap internet, with whether or not it's, you'd have to run the numbers on each one to see if it made sense to run your own node, or if it just would be better off to do a VPS. So you can see the specs right here. You got basic, 4 gig RAM, 2 core, 50 gig SSD, and then your bandwidth down there. And then you've got Super, which is 25,000. And we're going to look at a little bit more, into the cost and how much it actually costs to run a node, not to run it, but to set it up initially. We're going to look at that in a moment. So Super is 25,000 and a BAMF is 100,000. You can see all the specs there. And these specs are much higher than other masternode projects because ZelNode is focused on scalability. They are kind of like overdoing it on the node hardware requirements. ZelNode's launched just 7 months ago, so don't feel like you missed the boat on getting your own ZelNode. ZelNodes are incentivized. They receive 25% of the mining rewards. You can see right here. And the block reward is split 75 proof of work, 25 ZelNode operators. And you might be thinking, only 25% to nodes? Here's why. Here's why it's like that. And this is one of the huge benefits to me, or the huge pluses for this project. Many previous masternode projects were designed as get-rich-quick schemes that created and benefited only the rich and crypto cartels. So you had lots of money being thrown at masternodes, pumping the price, pumping the value, and then boom, they dump, right? And that's what has happened. That happened a lot last year. Some in 2017, some in 2018. So they're doing this in a way that will help prevent that. Right now, there are over 1,000 nodes online for Zel. And the nodes themselves will run the Zel daemon, which is a full node. It's used for signing messages, paying transaction fees, and organizing all that. Each node will also run ZelFlux OS, the operating system, which ZelFlux OS is going to communicate with other nodes for load balancing and security. We'll get into a little bit more about what ZelFlux is going to do. Each node will also run the benchmarking service, and that just is a service that's going to guarantee that rules are being followed on the network so that you're not cheating with your hardware or your bandwidth or your memory or your hard drive or whatever. So it's going to benchmark and keep it updated so that your information for your node is accurate on the network and your capabilities are accurate on the network. Each node will also run web services for block explorers, APIs, application programming interfaces, and things like that. They'll also run apps, which are Dockerized or non-Dockerized, which allows devs to build useful apps on the network. And Dockerized is like, the way I like to think about a Dockerized app, especially in a distributed environment, is it's basically like a distributed thin app. If you're familiar with VMware or any of that stuff, basically it's like a containerized app that runs within its own self. It doesn't require, it has very little requirements or hardly any. Basically it's self-contained, right? It's a containerized application. But in this case, it means distributed across multiple nodes, right? So ZelFlux will decide, and then the ZelFlux operating system that runs on these nodes will decide based on all the input data regarding benchmarking and geographical locations where those Dockerized or non-Dockerized apps will reside based on their, how many people are querying the app or using the app. And so ZelFlux is going to determine how many copies are going to be across the network and where they're located. And that's going to maintain the network efficiency and scalability. So we were talking about benchmarking, and they have a nice guide here on Zelcache GitHub with talking about all the different benchmarking that goes on in the service, right? So I can probably drop this in the description so that we can kind of get across what's going to be included in the benchmarking service. And what's really cool about ZelNodes and ZelFlux is Zel took a really rational and and sustainable and realistic approach to node structure and rewards, and they really should be commended for that. It's definitely a big plus for me, and I've mentioned it several times on several streams that I covered with, covering Zel, how I was really impressed with this particular structure because and something I noticed right away about it was it didn't appear to be like all those other masternode projects that we've seen in the past, where it's like 95% masternode rewards and 5% proof of work, right? It's just nonsense, right? So it's just something that really stood out to me initially, and it's just a good aspect of this overall project. It kind of lets you know where their head's at. And to provide the quality services and support continued growth, the Zel nodes need to run enterprise grade services or servers, VPSs, like we talked about before, and that allows the Zel nodes to provide the computing power necessary to run many decentralized services, such as multiple daemons, asset layers, sidechains, and Dockerized applications. To ensure network stability, efficiency, and scalability, each node will run a benchmarking tool to ensure it's providing the right computing power. Some of this I'm just rehashing here. Many projects, but this is a little different. Many projects use their wallet as the main interface to the network and its capabilities, and in this aspect, Zel is not any different. So they are going to use, don't worry, this is not anything, there's nothing in here. But they're going to use the Zel Core wallet as the interface to ZelFlux. We talked a little bit about ZelFlux a little bit before. I'm not gonna lie, whenever I first heard about it, it seemed like this huge mystery, and it took a while for me and some probing to actually figure out what it was. Basically, it'll be the operating system, just to reiterate here, basically it's going to be the operating system that communicates on the Zel network through the Zel nodes to provide a platform for useful work computations such as dApps, smart contracts, block explorers, API services, third-party apps, and sidechains. You can think of it, the simplest way to think of it is just the Zel node operating system. And it's actually called a MEVN stack, M-E-V-N stack. So it uses 4 different components. It uses Mongo for the NoSQL database, and that's that database. I want to say there are other projects that use it, but it's the one that doesn't, I think it doesn't have records, or it doesn't have like a line item. It's not like a normal SQL database. I think it uses objects instead of like entries or line items, I guess. So it uses objects instead. It uses Express for the HTTP web server, Vue.js for user interfaces and programming, and then Node for the JavaScript runtime. So programmers familiar with JavaScript and web development utilities can develop applications that function on the Zel network right away. So it's something that is going to, they're not making their own language, they're not introducing something new. It's using some, open source utilities for providing this capability of ZelFlux. Let me check the chat, see what's going on over here. What's up, Mojake? Yeah, that 2.5 terabyte, it is a lot. It's per month though. It's not like, per second. So a lot of plans are, at least in my area, I think we have, I don't think it's unlimited anymore, but I think it's unlimited to, they call it unlimited, but after a certain amount, they will start pinging on you for, hey, you're using too much data, you got to pay more, or here's the next tier up, or whatever. I want to say it's something like 4 or 6 terabytes, something like that, for my service before I start getting pinged on for it. So it's doable. You could have the hardware, but again, it's going to run all that software. It's going to run the operating system. It's going to run the benchmarking tool and all that stuff to make sure that it's good to go. And remember that if you run it at your house or at your place of business, you have to have, I want to say it's more than 96, it's 98% uptime, I think. It allows for 40 minutes a day, from what I understand. It allows for 40 minutes a day of downtime. And I don't think that's cumulative. So I think it's just 40 minutes within 24 hours. So I don't think that you could, I might be wrong here. If there's some Zel folks in here, let me know if I'm wrong, but I don't think that it builds up over time. So for example, if you built up, 5 days worth of downtime, I don't think that you can be down for 5 days in a row. I don't think it works like that. So it does allow for 40 minutes a day though, from what I gather. All right, so that is 22 minutes, and that's not too bad. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to cover. I don't really have anything else to talk about, unless y'all can come up with something. Yeah, I mean, that was kind of quick, but I mean, ZelFlux is not, I mean, you can cover it that fast, because as long as you understand that it's the operating system that the Zel nodes function on, that's pretty much all you need to know, right? Especially from a user standpoint. Now, if you're a developer, there's a lot to learn, but well, maybe not that much to learn if you're already a Java developer. Then you're already in the door there. So, but that is going to do it for me. I guess I'm going to sign off. Kind of a quick one tonight. If you found this information helpful, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. As always, I'll see you guys next time. Stay savage.